Hi everyone, today we're in Washington, Missouri with my friend Joette Reidy. Joette's a fellow pilgrim, and she's actually been my host here in Washington as we've been in the St. Louis area for the last 3 or 4 days. Joette, welcome to the High Roller Show.
Thank you, Steve. The High Roller
himself
is in Washington, Missouri. I love it.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for all your gracious hospitality the last few days. It's been lovely being here with you.
I've loved having you. It's been so fun.
Now, as we have kind of been around, we've made several stops around the St. Louis area and the Washington area, and what was it, Kirkwood?
Right, we went to the Kirkwood Alpine Shop.
Yeah. We have told the story several times of how you and I came to know one another. So you want to share that?
Yes. So when I was planning my first pilgrimage, I could not get enough information about the Camino. And I was just really trying to figure out if I could really do it or not. And I would search Facebook, and I would search Google, and I would search YouTube. And I don't know where I ran across your video originally, but all of a sudden there you were, walking in the snow, videotaping yourself, talking about being cold and wet and walking and being miserable and loving it. And you were walking in shorts, and I just couldn't believe it. And you talked about maybe trying to find pants. And by the end of that video, I wasn't finished. I wanted to know more about you and about your journey. And I wanted to know if you bought pants, and I wanted to know if you finished that day, much less the Camino. So I figured out how to go back and watch your videos that you had done before then to get me up to current time. And then every day I looked forward to seeing your videos, to see how far you've made it, and to see if your shin splints were still bothering you, and to see if your tendonitis was still a problem, and to see if you had made it. And when you finally got to Santiago, I was so happy for you. And I felt like we were friends. And it was kind of creepy because all of a sudden I understood how those stalkers worked and how things get in their head that makes it a little weird. And I was that weird stalker. But I knew that we were friends, and it was pretty cool.
And you know, one of the things that I've always done since pilgrimage, both in the spring and in the fall, I just sort of randomly choose usually a couple of people that I will follow, just like you mentioned, because I think part of our responsibility really as pilgrims is to cheer one another on, right?
Right.
So I'll find a couple of people that I think are interesting to me and that I can really support and get behind. And lo and behold, we didn't know it, but you were one of those people for me.
Really? Yeah. So we were following each other. We were friends with each other and didn't even know it. Isn't that fun?
It's crazy.
Yeah. And then I also, I have to admit, I felt like if you could do it, I could do it. Because we're about the same age.
Yep.
You're not in particularly great shape, maybe. Would you say that's fair to say?
I'm not an Olympic gold medalist.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So somewhere between an Olympic gold medalist and the guy that just hangs out at home.
Archie Bunker.
But you were walking the Camino, and you were doing it, and you were loving it. So when I found you and followed you and found out that you could do it and love it and finish it and have it be successful, that gave me hope to know that I could do it too.
It's a cool story.
Mm-hmm. It is a neat story.
So you and your family, and I guess you have a family business that goes back here in Washington and this area in Missouri. It goes back at least for one generation, maybe more.
Right.
You and your husband kind of run that operation now, and it's fascinating. So tell me a bit about your business.
Right. We own a company called Happy Apples. And Happy Apples are caramel-coated apples, the traditional Happy Apples that you see at fairs and at carnivals. And we do that. And we sell nationwide to grocery store chains. We're in Walmart and Schnucks and Piggly Wiggly and Kroger, and we're across the nation. We have a plant here in Washington, Missouri, and then we also have one in California. And then out of that, we also started apple orchards. And we plant and cultivate our own apples now. So we have 4 apple orchards in Missouri. And we do that. And my husband, luckily, runs the year-round business. He does all the administrative work, and he makes sure that the company is good. And I work in August, September, and October. And I do...
And that's a pretty intense time for you guys, right?
Yes, very intense. That's when we're That's when we're running the factory every day. That's when we're producing the happy apples. That's when we're running the orchard. That's when we're picking. So the rest of the year, stuff still goes on, but I'm not needed on a daily basis until August, September, and October. But that gives me a lot of time to be able to do things like walk the Camino.
And the whole idea about this business goes back to your father, or
My
even
grandfather.
your grandfather from
My
Italy.
dad's dad, correct. He came over as an immigrant from Italy, didn't speak any English, and he found himself in St. Louis. And when you're in St. Louis and only speak Italian, your choices are the fish market or the produce market. He went to the fish market first because it paid more, but the smell of the fish made him sick. So he went to the produce market and started working there and worked his way up, learned English, took on more and more responsibility within the produce company, ended up driving a produce route out to the small rural community of Washington, Missouri and the surrounding towns. And then he eventually bought his own truck and started his own wholesale fruit and produce company in Washington, Missouri. And then my parents took it over, and then my brothers and I took it over, and then my husband and I bought out my brothers. So now it's just my husband and I.
This is a really neat area in this pocket of Missouri, and it has a heavy immigrant influence, yeah?
Yes, it's mostly German.
Yeah.
It's mostly German. So when this Italian family came to town, that was a little different for this community. Some people accepted them better than others, but now it's a melting pot. So, yeah.
Now, you've been on the Camino Francis, and you're about to, in April,
Right, yeah.
head back for the Portuguese.
In about 3.5 weeks, I'll leave for the Portuguese Camino with 5 other ladies, 6 of us all together.
Can you describe for me just in 30 seconds or so, I know that's an impossible task, but the Camino means different things to all of us who do it. What does it mean to you?
To me, it's the perfect combination of what you should get out of travel. It has the cultural experience, it has the physical experience, and it also has the spiritual aspect. It's traditionally a Catholic pilgrimage is where it started, but now I would say less than half of the people do it as a Catholic experience. I would say less than 25% of the people do it as a Catholic religious pilgrimage. A lot of people do it as a spiritual pilgrimage, but you meet people of all religions, all faiths, and people with no religion. And it's just a community that all comes together, and they're all walking in the same direction, and they're not walking to compete against each other, they're walking to support each other. So the Camino magic happens, and everybody that you meet is your cheerleader, is your fan, and everybody that you meet, you support. So if somebody needs a bandage, somebody else has got a bandage. If somebody needs help one day, there's going to be somebody there to help them. And if you need help one day, there's going to be somebody there to help you. And I love it. I wanted to do it for 17 years before I went on my first pilgrimage. And I thought it would be a one-time thing. And it didn't take me long to realize this will not be my last time. I'm not finished walking. So.
Well, I'm glad that you and I could be cheerleaders for one another, even though we didn't know it.
I know. It was so funny when I got the Facebook message from you, and you started out the Facebook message and said, "We've never met, but I've followed your blog for 2 years." And I instantly thought, "Oh, I know you. I've followed your blogs for 3 years. We're friends. We just didn't know it." So,
and that is the magic of the Camino.
Camino magic is alive and strong.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us today, and most of all for the gracious hospitality that you showed to me and to Dana while she was here also.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to have you guys, and I hope we're not done yet either.
No way. See you next time.
Okay.
Bye-bye.